You know that text, "Hey, can I come over?" And suddenly your chest tightens. Not because you don't like them. No, you do. But the thought of someone in your space, touching your things, disrupting your quiet, it makes you want to say literally anything else. So you reply with, "Hey, let's grab coffee instead." And then the guilt hits. What kind of person dreads having friends over, right? So let's start here. You genuinely like these people. You enjoy their company. But then you're thinking, if I really cared about them, wouldn't I want them in my home? But here's the thing. Enjoying someone and enjoying them in your space are two completely different things. One doesn't cancel out the other. You're not being cold, You're not being antisocial. You just know what drains you. And it's not just the asking. It's what happens when they actually show up. The moment someone walks through your door, something shifts, even if they're your closest friend, even if the visit goes perfectly fine. There's this automatic tension that arrives with them. The exhaustion starts before they even sit down. So why does this happen? What's actually going on here? Sociologist Irving Goffman talked about something he called front stage versus backstage behavior. Front stage is the performance you do for the world. You smile, you're polite, you manage how you come across. Backstage is where the performance stops, where you can finally just exist without monitoring yourself. For most people, home is the only backstage they have. It's the one place where the mask comes off. But the second a guest arrives, you're back on stage. You're managing their comfort, reading their mood, performing good host. And that takes energy even when you're not consciously aware of it. There's another layer to this. Environmental psychologist Irwin Altman studied something called territoriality. Basically, humans need control over certain spaces to feel psychologically safe. Your home isn't just where you live. It's where you regulate your nervous system. You've arranged everything exactly how you need it. It all works together to help you decompress from the world outside. So when someone enters that space, they disrupt the system. Not because they're doing anything wrong, but because their presence changes the environment. And suddenly your emotional reset button doesn't work the same way. There's this research on highly sensitive people by Dr. Elaine Aron shows that some people need solitary time to recharge. Not want, but need. It's not a preference, It's how their nervous system functions. So if you're an introvert or a highly sensitive person, alone time is like oxygen. You need it to process everything you absorbed during the day. And your home is where you finally get to breathe. So when someone asks to come over, what they're really asking is to share your oxygen supply. Sounds crazy, right? But it's real. Now here's what makes hosting different from hanging out anywhere else. When you meet someone at a cafe or a park, you're both guests in a neutral space. No one's responsible for the environment. But when they're in your home, you're running background programs you don't even notice. You're monitoring if they're comfortable, adjusting the temperature, anticipating what they might need, etc., etc. Your brain is multitasking the entire time. Christine Miserandino created something called spoon theory to describe limited energy. Every task costs spoons, and hosting costs way more spoons than people realize, which is why just relaxing together doesn't actually feel relaxing when you're the host. And there's this hypervigilance loop. Dr. Stephen Porges developed polyvagal theory, which explains how your nervous system constantly scans for safety. When someone else is there, even someone you trust, your nervous system stays slightly activated. Your body can't fully relax when it's sharing territory, even temporarily. But when you're alone in your space, your system relaxes. No, it's not paranoia, it's biology. And there's this control disruption. Psychologically, we need a sense of control over our environment to feel secure. It's called locus of control. But the second someone else is there, you lose it. You're suddenly reacting to someone else's presence. Not because anything's wrong, but because you're not the one controlling the environment anymore. And that loss of control, even small, creates a stress. Now let's talk about routine. Routines aren't just habits. They're psychological safety nets. When you know what's coming next, your brain can relax. But hosting disrupts everything. You can't decompress the way you normally would. You can't even fart on your own house. Research shows that people with strong routines experience more stress when those routines are interrupted. Not because they're rigid, but because predictability is calming, right? Too bad hosting makes everything unpredictable. And that uncertainty alone is exhausting. But here's the thing, not everyone feels this way. Some people love hosting. They get energy from having people over, you know. So why don't you? Well, actually, it comes down to wiring. Hans Eysenck, a pioneer in personality psychology, found that introverts have higher baseline arousal in their nervous systems, which means they reach overstimulation faster. Dr. Elaine Aron's research shows that about 15 to 20% of people are highly sensitive. They process sensory and emotional input more deeply. Noise feels louder and energy feels heavier. If that's you, then typical social environments aren't just tiring. They're genuinely overwhelming. There's another reason this might hit harder for you. Your childhood. If you grew up in a home where guests meant stress, well, that pattern probably stuck. Those early experiences shape how your nervous system responds now. Even as an adult, when someone says they're coming over, your body might react like it did back then. Tense, alert, even preparing for something uncomfortable. So yeah, it's not logical, it's just how trauma or stress gets stored. But no, it doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. You might also have strong boundaries. Psychologically, boundaries are how you protect your capacity to function. You know the difference between connection and access. It doesn't mean you don't care about people. It just means you know what you need to stay whole. Alright, so how do you actually handle this? Because people are going to keep asking, you know. And you need a way to say no without feeling terrible. So here's the thing. You don't owe anyone an explanation. But if you want to give one, keep it simple. I'm not really a hosting person, but I'd love to meet you at that coffee shop. Or, I prefer meeting up outside my place. Want to grab lunch? Most people will respect that. But the ones who push back or make you feel guilty, those are the ones that don't respect your boundaries. And don't think you're being difficult. You're just being clear about what works for you. But sometimes you can't avoid hosting. Family obligations, special occasions, whatever. So here's how to protect yourself when it's unavoidable. Set the time boundary at the invitation. Can we do 2 to 5? I've got something after that. Build the exit into the plan from the start. If possible, plan an activity with a clear endpoint, such as movie night or game night, something that naturally wraps up. And here's the key. When the agreed time arrives, start wrapping things up. You don't need to wait for them to get the hint. You already set the boundary. Now you're just enforcing it. Okay, but what about evening hosting? Because this is where it gets tricky. In Western culture, dinner parties are the norm. People expect hosting to happen around 7 p.m. or later. But here's the problem with that. Evening visits have no natural endpoint. You can't just say, all right, everybody go home. I need to sleep at 9 p.m. That sounds ridiculous. So you're stuck hosting indefinitely, draining your energy until they finally decide to leave. And look, moving dinner to afternoon hosting, that's nearly impossible for most people. You're all working. So let's just be blunt. Just say no to dinner hosting. Don't make the invitation. And suggest to do it at restaurants instead. Yes, it will be more expensive. Yes, most people won't agree though. So here's a counterintuitive strategy. Instead of a dinner host, be the best guest they want to invite. Bring wine or food, help clean up, and leave before 9 p.m. Here's why this works. When you're an easy and low maintenance guest, people actually want to host you, you know, because you're not a burden. You're helpful and you respect their time and space. Thus, they prefer to host and you prefer to be a guest. So here's what I want you to take from this. Needing your home to stay private isn't selfish. It's self-preservation. Protecting your sanctuary is how you stay functional in the rest of your life. And actually, your boundaries make your other interactions more authentic because you're not showing up resentful or drained. And that is worth protecting.